Hello and welcome to Master's Teach. And today we'll discuss about the national liberation movements in China, Vietnam, and Nigeria. So this is a part of your Telangana TET social syllabus. Okay, and it is very important. It is strictly for the examination point of view. So let us start the class. Okay, we'll discuss about the anti-colonial struggles and independent movements. Okay, so what is the national liberation movement? So let us see the definition. Okay, so if you are newly watching my channel, please do subscribe. So the definition is the national liberation movement is an organized struggle by the colonized people to free themselves from foreign rule and establish self-governance. So this is the liberation definition. So why colonies fought for freedom? So because the colonial exploitation, so people are exploited, the resource are taken from them, and there is a forced labor is there. Then political control. So there is no voice in government or against the government. Cultural dominance. These colonial people are the rulers. So they have domination of the foreign culture, and the native identity got suppressed. So rise of nationalism. So educated and elite uh, people resisted this colonial. Okay, so China, Vietnam, and Nigeria each waged unique but interconnected struggle against imperial powers. So the colonialism in Asia and Africa. So European imperialism and economic exploitation, political control, and cultural domination. So European imperialism, so European power carved up in Asia and Africa for trade and economic gain during 18th and 19th century. So 18th to 20th century, economic exploitation. So raw material are extracted and local industry are destroyed and wealth is transferred to colonial powers. Then political control. So native rulers were replaced. So laws were imposed. People are denied basic rights and representation. Then cultural dominance. So local language, religions, and customs were suppressed. So Western values forcibly imposed, especially in Asia and Africa. So China before the revolution. So weekend of the King Qing dynasty. So by the late 19th century, the Qing dynasty was crumbling under the foreign pressure and internal decay. So opium wars, so that we already discussed in previous lectures, 1839 to 1842 and 1856 to 1860. So China defeated by Britain and forced to open forts. Then spheres of influence. So European powers divided China into zones of control. Then Boxer rebellion in 1900. So anti-foreign uprising crushed by Allied forces. Then peasant poverty, corruption, and military weaken the deepen the crisis. So do you know that the British forced China to import opium, causing widespread of addiction and social collapse. So it is just like using drugs. So China forced to, like British forced to China to import this opium like drugs. So this causes China people got addicted and there is a social collapse is happen. Okay. So Chinese Revolution of 1911. So let us see Sun Yat-sen, so is a father of modern China, led the nationalist Kuomintang, so movement against the Qing dynasty. Then three principles: nationalism, democracy, okay, and people's livelihood. So Sun's guiding ideology for free China. Then end of monarchy. The Qing dynasty fell in 1911. Over 2000 years of imperial rule ended. So Republic of China. So established on 1st January 1912. So China's first republic with the Sun Yat-sen as a provincial president. So you have to remember here the father of modern China is Sun Yat-sen, and when the China got republic, they got on 1st January 1912. So you have to remember these points for the examination point of view. Not only listening this class, so try to make the notes that will be helpful to you. Okay, so rise of communist movement in China. So Mayang Mao Zedong and the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, was founded in 1921. Mao Zedong emerged as its dominant leader, so mobilizing millions of peasants against landlords and foreign powers. So peasant support. Okay, so Mao-based revolution is a long march. How we got Telangana march? They got long march 1934 to 35. So there is a 9,000-kilometer retreat. So forged a CCP unity. Then struggle against Chiang Kai-shek. So is the nationalist forces. So the key figure in communist movement in China, Mao Zedong. So he is born like it is born in 1893, Hunan province, Sarol. So Mao Zedong is chairman of Chinese Communist Party. So the ideology of this Mao Zedong is Marxism, Leninism adapted for agrarian China. So the legacy led China's communist revolution, founded People's Republic. Okay, take the notes. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, victory of the Chinese Revolution 1949. So there is a civil war. After World War II, full-scale civil war erupted between Chinese Communist Party and Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist 1946 and 49. Then communist victory. So nationalists fled to Taiwan. So on 1st October 1949, so Mao proclaimed the People's Republic of China. What is the global impact? So world's most population nation turned communist. So it is reshaping Cold War geopolitics and inspiring liberation movements worldwide. So Vietnam under French rule. So here French colonialism in Indochina. So French colonized Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia as the French Indochina from 1880s. So Vietnam suffered severe exploitation. There is a economic exploitation. So rice, rubber and coal exacted for France, whereas forced labor. So Vietnam peasant worked on plantations under brutal conditions. So heavy taxation. So deepen the poverty among rural communities. Spread of nationalism. So educated Vietnam began demanding rights and independence. So forced labor here, the forced labor on French rubber plantation caused thousands of Vietnam deaths annually. So this is a Vietnam under French rule. So Ho Chi Minh, okay, and Vietnam's nationalism. Ho Chi Minh. So he who enlights, that meaning. So born Nguyen Sin Kong, 1890, traveled the world, embraced the Marxism, and dedicated his life to Vietnam independence. So formation of Viet Minh, 1941. Who founded the Viet Minh? That means League of Independence Vietnam. So a broad nationalist front uniting communists and patriots. So communist ideology. So this Ho Chi Minh, okay. So he born in Nguyen Sin Chong, 1890s. Okay. So he has the communist ideology. So he blended Marxism and Leninism. So with Vietnam nationalism, so making the independence struggle also social revolution for peasants and workers. So Declaration of Independence on 2nd September 1945, Ho Chi Minh declared Vietnam independence. So you have to remember when the Declaration of Independence done by Ho Chi Minh on 2nd September 1945, Ho Chi Minh declared Vietnam independent, quoting the American Declaration of the Independence. Okay, so Vietnam War and the road to liberalization. So 1940 and 45, Japan is occupied during the World War II, whereas Vietnam resisted both Japan and France. In 1946 and 54, Indo First Indo-China War. So Vietnam versus France ended with French defeat in Dien Bien Phu. Okay, in 1954 Geneva Accords. So Vietnam temporarily divided at 17th parallel into Northern Communist and South US Backen. So 1955 to 75, Second Vietnam War. So it is US intervened to prevent communist unification. So guerrilla warfare got intensified. So in 1975, fall of Saigon. Okay. So US withdraw, Vietnam reunited under the communist rule on 2nd July 1976. So Vietnam victory over the USA became the landmark moment in Cold War history, inspired the anti-colonial movements globally. So you have to remember, so fall of Saigon, so US withdrawn, okay, then Vietnam reunited under communist rule on 2nd July 1976. So you have to remember this. Okay. So Vietnam War against the Europe. So American intervention. So the US entered the war fearing the domino fact that communism would spread across Southeast Asia in 1969. Over 5 lakh US troops were deployed. So how Vietnam won? So guerrilla warfare. Viet Cong used tunnel and ambitious and jungle terrain. So peasant support, local population back at the liberation force. Ho Chi Minh Trail is a supply route through Laos and Cambodia. Fall of Saigon. Okay, 30th April 1975, US backed South Vietnam collapse. So Vietnam reunited in 1976 as the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Okay, so let us discuss about the Nigeria under the British rule. So it is a British colonial administration. So British colonized Nigeria through Royal Niger Company and later direct rule. So Niger became a formal British colony in 1914 when the north and south were amalgamated. Okay, so in Nigeria there is a economic exploitation. So palm oil, groundnuts, and tin was extracted. So indirect rule. So traditional rulers used as British agents. Cultural impact. So Christian missionaries suppressed the indigenous traditions. Rise of educated African. So Western education created a nationalist class. Okay. Then Nigerian nationalist movement. So role of press education. So newspapers like West African Pilot. It is founded by Nnamdi Azikiwe. So spread the nationalist ideas and demand self-rule. Then political organization. So Nigerian Youth Movement 1934 and MCNC 1944 organized the mass political resistance against British rule. So demanded for self-rule. So leaders demanded constitutional reforms, Africanization of civil service, and eventual independence through peaceful political pressure. This is about the Nigerian nationalist movement. Okay, so independence of Nigeria in 1960. The key leaders here: Nnamdi Azikiwe, so Jik of Africa, first president of Nigeria. So when you are writing, even though my pronunciation is not good, try to write the names, that will be helpful to you. Okay. Then we Ojame fame Avlo champion, so of forbo rights of federalism, then Ahmadu Bello, so northern Nigerian political leader, Tafawa Batewa, first Prime Minister of independent Nigeria. So, path to independence. Nigeria independence was achieved through peaceful constitutional negotiation rather than armed force struggles, a contract to China and Vietnam. On 1st October 1960, Nigeria became independent. However, post independence, so challenges influenced ethnic tensions, military coups, and economic inequalities. So, Nigerians' independence inspired other African nationals still under colonial rule. So, let us compare China, Vietnam, Nigeria. The feature here: China, Vietnam, Nigeria. So key difference: colonial empower. So China is ruled by multiple Britain, Japan, and etc. Whereas Vietnam, it is French, then USA. Nigeria, it is purely ruled by the Britain. Okay. Key difference: Vietnam faced two colonial powers, whereas types of struggle in China there is an armed revolution, whereas Vietnam guerrilla warfare, whereas Nigerian revolution, it is peaceful and political. So the key difference is that Nigeria is the most peaceful movement. Okay, main leaders: China, Mao Zedong, Sun Yat-sen, whereas Vietnam, Chi Minh, whereas Nigeria, Alkiwe Balewa. So all had Chinese leaders. Then features: year of freedom. So China got freedom 1949, PRC founded. Okay, then Vietnam 1975, 1960 it is unified. Nigeria got in 1960, whereas Vietnam lost to unify. So outcome: so China become communist state. whereas Vietnam got Socialist Republic, then Nigeria got Federal Republic. So different political system were there. So if you want to, you can take the screenshot of this one. Okay. Then role of key leaders. So Sun Yat-sen, 1866-1926. So father of modern China, founded the Kuomintang. Okay, led the 1911 revolution. So proposed the three principles of the people. Mao Zedong, 1893-1976, chairman of Chinese Communist Party. So led the Long March, won the Civil War, and founded the People's Republic of China, 1949. Ho Chi Minh, so 1890-1969, so founded the Viet Minh, so declared Vietnamese independence in 1945, led resistance against France and USA, whereas Nnamdi Azikiwe, 1904-1996, Jik of Africa. Who is Jik of Africa? Nnamdi Azikiwe. So used journalism and political to build Nigerian nationalism. So become the first president of Nigeria in 1963. So what is the impact of liberalization movement? So they rise nationalism, end of colonialism, so inspiration other nation, social and political changes. So the liberalization movements of China, Vietnam and Nigeria collectively accelerate the global decolonization process, so reshaping the political map of 20th century, inspiring generation for freedom fighters and worldwide. So the important timeline here, 1911, so Chinese Revolution, Qing dynasty falls, so Republic of China established under the Sun Yat-sen. So 1921, so China's Communist Party founded. Chinese Communist Party established the Mao Zedong rises to prominence in 1934-35. Long March. There is a Chinese Communist Party, so 9,000-kilometer strategic retreat, symbol of communist endurance. In 1945, Vietnam independence declared. Ho Chi Minh announced independence on September 2. And 1949, People's Republic of China, Mao proclaims communist victory on 1st October. In 1960, Nigeria independent on 1st October 1960. First Prime Minister Tajawa Balewa leads the nation. Okay, this you have to remember. Then 1975-76, Vietnam reunified, fall of Saigon. Then April 1975, Socialist Republic Vietnam formed 1976. So the TET and DSC purpose you have to remember. Father of modern China, Sun Yat-sen. So China Communist Party founded in 1921. Long March year 1934-35. PRC, okay, People's Republic China proclaimed on 1st October 1949. Viet Minh founder Ho Chi Minh. Geneva Accords year 1954. Fall of Saigon 30th April 1975. Nigeria independence 1st October 1960. First Nigerian president Nnamdi Azikiwe. Nigeria is colonized by British. So this is the thing you have to follow. This master following. Okay, go through this. So these are the MCQs. Go through this MCQs, then that will be good enough. Okay. Thank you for watching Master's Teach. Will come with the next lecture with a beautiful presentation. It is totally for the examination point of view. All the best for your coming examination of TET, DSC or Group. Signing off, Mohan here.